Hey, what's going on, Who Dat Nation? It is yours truly, TJ Jones, the host of the State of the Saints podcast. And coming up on this edition, we're going to be talking about the Saints dealing with injuries to some key players. And also, if you park behind somebody's house to walk to this stand to get yourself a wedding cake snowball and some nachos and cheese, then you know where I'm at.
Thank you for listening to my daddy's podcast. Please subscribe to our channel.
All I got to say is, who dat? Hey, what's going on, Who Dat Nation? It is yours truly, TJ Jones. And yes, I am the host of the State of the Saints podcast. And thank you so much for checking out the State of the Saints podcast, where we talk New Orleans Saints. And on this edition, we're going to be talking about the New Orleans Saints dealing with some injuries to some key players that they were counting on going into the 2025 season. What is the severity of the injuries, and how is this going to impact the team? But of course, like always, it's always a pleasure for me to talk to each and every one of you, and shouts out to everyone in the chat. And also a special shout out to everybody that came over to the NFC South Roundtable. If you're watching this on a Tuesday night, it's every single Tuesday at 8 p.m. I had a really good time over there. I seen a nice, strong presence of the Who Dat Nation. It's always a pleasure and always an honor that you all roll with your boy no matter where he goes. I really do appreciate that. And also, I think is an addition of the state of the NFL that a lot of you will be able to enjoy, especially being Saints fans. We actually talked about the New Orleans Saints over on the State of the NFL channel. We talked about the quarterback competition between the three quarterbacks, 8-minute video. So when this video is all said and done, you can check it out. I'm going to go ahead and put the link inside of the comments. Make sure you check out the episode of the State of the NFL, and make sure you subscribe. We're really close. We're about 8 subscribers away from 700 subscribers, man. So thank you to everybody that subscribed to that channel. But if everyone can hit that subscribe button, we'll get to 1,000 in no time. That's the goal, to make sure that we, get to that goal as close to the regular season, as we get. I hope that we reach that goal. And if we don't, then still, I appreciate if you hit that subscribe button. But let's go ahead and get into it. Let's talk a little bit about some of the key injuries to the New Orleans Saints. One we have to start with is Trevor Penning. Trevor Penning went down in the game. He went to the sidelines, got carted to the locker room. It looked very serious. Like anytime they bring the cart out, means that a guy can't really walk on his own power. And, when they bring out the cart, it normally is not good. Sometimes guys get on a cart and they come back in the next couple of weeks or even next week. I've seen players get carted off the field, come back the following week and play lights out. I can think about that magical season back in 2009 when the Saints went to the Super Bowl. The week they played the Dallas Cowboys, the week before that game, DeMarcus Ware got carted off the field. And, it looked very, very serious. And the next week he comes out there and, he was extremely disruptive. So it always doesn't indicate that the season is over for a player, but you never want to see the cart come out. But Trevor Penning, some good news is he's going to miss, the bad news is he's going to miss a few weeks, but the good news is it's not as serious. It's not going to affect his status going into week 1. But however, Will Clapp, his season, unfortunately, is over. He dealt with a foot injury and he was put on IR on Tuesday. It's unfortunate, man. I think everybody was excited to see Will Clapp come back to the team. he's always been a team player. He's always been a guy that the Saints can rely on. And when it comes to the injuries, he comes in, he plays guard, he plays across the offensive line and does a really formidable job. And it's one of the main reasons why the New Orleans Saints decided to sign him in the offseason. The Saints dealt with injuries last season to the offensive line, and I don't feel like they had strong depth when it comes to the offensive line. So adding a player like Will Clapp that can play along the offensive line, give you some levels of stability for a short period of time or even an extended amount of time, it's a crushing blow. And also a wide receiver, Bub Means. Bub Means suffered a pretty serious injury. He's looking for a second opinion, but the first opinion says that he's going to be out for the foreseeable future as well. I think that you have some Saints fans that believe that maybe Bub Means could make an impact. I wasn't one of those fans. I'm going to be honest with you. I thought that maybe he can catch a pass or two or even, contribute throughout the season. But I didn't see 600-700 yards out of Bub Means, even though I feel like the Saints were looking at him as that big target that they need. Everybody knows that the Saints have their key receivers that are kind of small in stature, well, according to, NFL standards at the wide receiver position. And Bub Means is a little bit larger than some of these other wide receivers, but it's still a crushing blow nonetheless. But, you got to have the next man up mentality. You got to make sure that you have depth across not only the offensive line, but every single position room that you have. I think the biggest issue that the Saints are facing is the depth. I think that teams that have really good depth are the teams that end up making it all the way to the Super Bowl or even making deep playoff runs, somewhere in between. But the New Orleans Saints, they have to figure it out. I think they're going to be relying on young players. Now, I'm going to say this. I know some Saints players want the Saints to go out here to get, some of these veteran guys. But, I like what the New Orleans Saints are doing. Like, we all know that the team is going through a rebuild. And I'm not saying that the Saints are trying to tank or they're trying to look as bad as possible. But I have an appreciation for what they're actually doing when it comes to them signing and going after players that are relatively young. I think about some of the players that tried out today that included players like Justin Ross. He was a stud at the University of Clemson, played with the Kansas City Chiefs over the last couple of years, was a late round draft pick. I think he got drafted maybe like the 6th round, but he's a tall guy. He's like 6'4", 210 pounds, and he's only 25 years old. Early in the offseason, the Saints went after Gabe Davis, who's 26 years old. So I have an appreciation for what the New Orleans Saints are doing. They're trying to get young. They're trying to add depth to the team, but they're adding guys that still have a little bit more tread on the tire. They're not looking at some of these 30, 31-year-old wide receivers or some of these 30, 31-year-old position guys, that have been bold soldiers in the National Football League, but their careers are more than likely winding down. You want to give these young guys opportunities. You want to give these young players opportunities to come in and contribute. And if they hit the ground running, you can probably utilize them for, another 2 to 3 years, depending on the type of work that they put in. But it's a crushing blow to see any player go down. You don't want to see any player get hurt, no matter if they're, a superstar or there's somebody that's trying to make the team. It's very unfortunate. But the New Orleans Saints, they're going to have to figure this thing out. We understand that the New Orleans Saints dealt with injuries last season. One of the main reasons why the season just went to hell last season, the Saints finished 5-12. Nobody really wants to see that. Like, if it happens, it just happens. But you want it to happen where guys are giving it their all. And it just, the Saints are just dealing with this whole rebuilding process. And I just think that everybody want to understand. But you don't want the season to be over before it starts, because you're dealing with injuries. And this is also a reminder that no matter what you do when it comes to the offseason process, whether it's, looking at guys, how many miles they run in the course of a week, how many reps that they take. Like, you cannot hide guys or prevent injuries from happening. And I mean, football is a very dangerous sport. I mean, anything can happen. Like, you can be on a pile and, you didn't have anything to do with the play. Somebody just falls on you or somebody like falls on your leg, falls on your arm. Like, it just happens. You can't avoid that. All right. You just got to do the best that you possibly can to try to keep guys up and also have some depth pieces around just in case some of your core players or your key players go down. So wish all of these players a speedy recovery for them to get back on the field so they can contribute to this team. Salute to Will Clapp. Would have been great to see him in 2025, but unfortunately, he's not going to be playing due to his injury. But Trevor Penning and Bub Means, you probably have a better chance of seeing them. And, Trevor Penning being a starter, that's a good thing. But let's go ahead and read some of your comments. Shouts out to everybody here in the chat. I'll go ahead and start with the donors here. We got Tom Brady. Thank you very much for the $2.79. He says, I'm thinking of coming out of retirement for New Orleans. Well, look, I think that people would love to see a quarterback like Tom Brady, but I don't think they want to actually see Tom Brady. I think Tom Brady has been a really good quarterback throughout his time in the National Football League, of course. I mean, he's the greatest of all time, in some people's eyes. And, but I mean, he's doing a good job as far as, I feel, at being a color commentator on Fox, and seemed like he's enjoying his life after football. So, but hopefully we can get a quarterback one day that resembles that of a Tom Brady that can win some football games and make Saints fans excited again about seeing some football, and not just the fact that we don't know what's going to happen. Is probably, a good thing if we know what's going to happen, and it's a positive thing. Keen Arthur, thank you very much for the $2. Says, shouts out to rookie left tackle for not giving up any pressures. Yeah, shouts out to Kelvin Banks. I've been saying this for a while. I just think that the guy is special. I think that he's going to be a really good player for the Saints. As long as he stays healthy, I think he's going to be a core player for years to come. Him as well as Tallahassee Fuaga. I think the Saints have their anchors on the left and right side. I just think they need to fix this interior. I'm okay with Eric McCoy as long as he stays healthy. He's one of the best. But Trevor Penning and Cesar Ruiz, I mean, they need to get it together, man. I mean, Cesar Ruiz is he's too talented, and he's been in the league too long to be dealing with some of the things that he's dealing with. Going up against second and third string defensive linemen and getting whooped at the line of scrimmage. I mean, and Trevor Penning, this is his final chance. You done played all across the offensive line, left tackle, right tackle, and now left guard. It's time for the light to come on, or people are going to feel like, well, there's no saving grace about you. So I want to see these guys work out, but I'm almost at a point when it comes to Cesar Ruiz, you got to get it together, man. I'm okay at this point with Trevor Penning, because Trevor Penning is what he is. The Saints are just trying to save face in some cases when it comes to Trevor Penning, playing him across the offensive line to try to validate or make sense out of him being a first round pick. And Cesar Ruiz, man, he just got to play better, man. It's rather he got to play better and prove, or the Saints need to figure out what they need to do as far as using him as trade value. And, I don't take any pride in saying that. I want to see Cesar Ruiz play. And I think in some cases he does play solid, but the play is way too inconsistent. He'll go out there and look very consistent in week 1 and then get beat to sleep in week 2. I just think that the guy is just too talented, too athletic to be getting beat by some of these guys that probably not even going to be on a football team. I just hope that he has a better showing in week 2. That's what I feel. I'm concerned about this interior. I'm not concerned about the left tackle or the right tackle. I think that those guys are studs. Just the inside. I mean, that is going to be the deciding factor if the Saints are going to be effective offensively. Do you think 3 preseason games is enough to evaluate Tyler and Spencer? Neither guy had reps with the ones. Well, Javonte, look, man, if you saying that, preseason you can't really evaluate them enough, I beg to differ. I think if you combine preseason with practice and training camp, because you got to keep in mind, there are 3 preseason games, but these players are practicing during the week. So you're getting yourself a large sample size of what these players can actually do in practice and also during these preseason games. But you have to count on this coaching staff to make the right decisions, to make sure that they're actually selecting the right guy. I mean, you don't know until you know. I don't think that you don't know what these guys are going to do until you hit the regular season. I mean, you can have an idea. You just got to decide based on the practice performances, based on the games, based on the film that you're actually looking at and evaluating, that you're making the right decision. at the starting quarterback position. I won't steal any of my thunder for the state of the NFL, but I really honestly feel that it is going to come down to how consistent these quarterbacks are. Now, if it's an equal playing field, I think you already know where I stand. But if it comes down to Spencer Rattler improving and playing much better than he did last week, and Tyler Shuck falls back, then I think you have your answer. But I think you have enough between training camp, practices, and the games to evaluate who could be your starting quarterback. Let's see, watching the state of NFL now and SOTS. I appreciate that, Jerry. I appreciate that. Yeah, make sure y'all check out the state of the NFL. Like I said, this is like an 8-minute video talking about both quarterbacks. Hope you all enjoy that, man. These two linemen down for the season. That's 2 linemen down for the season. Well, look, you look at these offensive linemen. Like I said, Will Clapp, I feel like he would have been a key contributor, but not all is lost. Like, you still have your starting offensive linemen, but I also think you just need some depth. Like I was very pleased at the performance by rookie Torricelli Simpkins, who came in after Will Clapp went out. I was really impressed by him. I think that he played, I think he played a really good game. I think that he definitely have the coaching staff taking a second look at him. And I think if he continues to play like that, he might end up being on the offensive line. And if he definitely plays like that, then Trevor Penning or Cesar Reed's going to have to look out. I'm serious. Like, that guy seems like he wants it, and it's good to see. Like, you like to see these young, hungry players. Like, you want to see these players step up, take advantage of the opportunities. He wouldn't have been in a game as often and played it from start to finish if Will Clapp wasn't didn't go down with an injury. So sometimes you just got to take advantage of your opportunities. And when those opportunities present itself, you got to knock it out of the park. And this young man did a really good job at taking advantage of his opportunities. Now, you still have 2 more preseason games as well as practice, and you got to build on the momentum that you established. But I like what I saw out of the young man. Say, TJ, a lot of people talking about the pick Shuck threw like it wasn't just as bad as Spencer's fumble. Well, look, I'm not going to Cartel. I'm not going to play, tit for tat with some of these Saints fans out here, man. Like, if you want to be petty about these quarterbacks, be petty. If you want to sit up here and evaluate and go at 2 quarterbacks that are instrumental to the success of your favorite football team, then knock yourself out. But I just think that people are going to think and believe what they want to believe. Just like earlier today, Cartel, I put a tweet out, and, I watched all the young rookie quarterbacks take the field. And, I just thought that Tyler Shuck had some better arm talent than some of the quarterbacks I've seen. I didn't say that Tyler Shuck was going to be the best out of the quarterback class, but I said that he just throws the ball like he just with so much velocity, and it just effortlessly come out of his hands, right? And, people are like, oh, man, what you talking about? It's as if I said he was going to be the better quarterback. But it just tells me that people are going to believe what they want to believe. And you have some individuals that are not going to buy into Tyler Shuck because in some cases they don't want them to work, because in some people's eyes is they rather be right about somebody than even see their favorite team find success. I don't get it, right? I mean, both of these quarterbacks are trying to be the starting quarterback, and whoever ends up being a starting quarterback, I'm rooting for. If you're a backup for the New Orleans Saints, I'm rooting for you. Why? Because you play for the Saints. And there's a chance that you can play in a game. So if you're sitting up here bashing Spencer Rattler and want Tyler Shuck to start, well, if Tyler Shuck ends up starting, gets hurt, then who do you think coming into the game? I just think that Saints fans are just, tired. They're frustrated. And I get it, right? I mean, 4 seasons without the playoffs. You're still looking for the succession plan for Drew Brees. You're still trying to find a coach to replace Sean Payton. I get all that. I get the frustration, and some Saints fans are in uncharted territory. But damn, can we at least try to see what this thing looks like before we start jumping off ledges and talking about how this thing isn't going to work? I'm just one of those people that I would like to see that it doesn't work before I just say that it doesn't work. And I'm definitely not going to be crying and boo-hooing about something that I asked for, which is a rebuild. So Rome wasn't built in a day. In this case, quarterbacks aren't built in a day. So I just think that people need to have the patience and stop trying to root for the demise of one quarterback over the other. They both play for your favorite team. So why in God's name would you want any of them to fail? I don't want any of these guys to turn the ball over. I don't want any of these guys to make mistakes. I want a fair assessment by both guys playing at the highest level and allowing the coaching staff to make it, make the decision. And I want this decision to be as tough as possible, because the tougher the decision, the better chance that the New Orleans Saints season can be much better than we anticipate. So I just hope that people just take that into consideration before they start bashing these guys. I mean, but, some people are not going to take that advice. TJ, that kid has quick feet for a big boy. Yeah, man, he's extremely athletic. I can remember watching him at South Carolina. I can remember watching him. And I mean, he's always been like super athletic, man. I'm just shocked, like, he kind of like slid under the radar. I think it had a lot to do with, I think that he got kind of mixed up in that offensive line. Like, South Carolina has that reputation of not really having an offensive line. And of course, he's associated with that. So I don't think that people really gave him a fair shot. But, I think that he's a very talented, really, really talented young man. And I think that, he can be a part of this team. TJ Shuck throws like Kurt Warner. Homie can throw. Yeah, I mean, I see some Jared Goff in him. I was going back trying to compare him and see who he reminds me of. We did a show a couple episodes back where we actually were thinking about who does he resemble. I can see a little bit of Jared Goff in him. He's a little bit more athletic than Jared Goff is. His ability to be able to scramble. Man, he's deceptively fast. Like, people don't know that, man. I think he ran like a 4.7 at the combine. Like, he got some wheels, man. He can move. And also, man, I was impressed also, King Arthur and Who Dat Nation, about how he was able to move out of the pocket, man. He was able to move the pocket. He extended plays. He took what the defense gave him. Like I said, I mean, I was impressed after the interception. If it would have went downhill after the interception, I think that most Saints fans would have been very, very discouraged about the season, more so than some of them already are. But I just think that the way he shook out of the situation and made better decisions, I think you have to leave that game believing that, there's something that you can actually build on. Like what they can actually build, I don't know. But he has the talent. I don't think the Saints made a mistake. Like, based on his arm talent, his ability, I don't think the Saints made a mistake by drafting him. I can understand why they drafted him. Like, he has really good arm talent. Like, can this be accompanied by really good decision-making and being strong, standing strong in the pocket? That remains to be seen. But to say, like, oh, man, this guy doesn't have any redeeming qualities and he doesn't deserve, to be in the position he's in, I don't agree with that. I think he has just as much arm talent, if not more arm talent, than a lot of these quarterbacks that came before him. I can see a little bit of Matthew Stafford. I don't look. The only thing that separate, the only reason I disagree with that, Randy, is because I don't think a lot of people realize like how talented and how special of a thrower Matthew Stafford is. Like, Matthew Stafford, to me, like, when we talk about, going through, the history of the NFL, like, he probably one of the top 15 best throwers of the football in NFL history. Like, I don't think he gets enough credit for his arm talent. I think he's up there with the Mahomes. I think that he's up there, with the guys like Breeze, like super accurate, can put the ball in tight windows. Like, he's up there. Like Aaron Rodgers, like he's in that category. John Elway, he's in that conversation to me. That's the reason why. Like, I don't know if Tyler Shuck, has that in him, right? But I like the zip that he has on the ball. I like the way it comes out of his hands, and I think that he throws a very catchable football. So, but Matthew Stafford, that's a whole different beast, man. I think that I think Randy, I think in this case, like, you got to give Matthew Stafford a little bit more credit. Like, the guy a beast, man. Guy a beast. But I can see, I can see some arm talent, but Matthew Stafford top 15 all time when it comes to throwing that football, man. He's not Vic, but dude isn't a statue either. And that's what you need, King Arthur. Not somebody that's just so willing to run with the football, like give you a little Vic, Lamar. But, when a pocket collapse and you need to get out of the pocket, and, like looking at this offensive line, and look, I don't want to keep on beating up on the offensive line. Lord knows the defensive line of the Chargers did enough for that. All I'm saying is this offensive line is not good enough to hold down the fort. Like, they're not good enough for a quarterback to stand in a pocket strong and be back there all day to go through his progressions. So the Saints need a quarterback that can be able to scramble outside the pocket. Once again, doesn't have to be Vic, doesn't have to be Lamar, right? Doesn't have to be Terrell Pryor back in 2013. But all I'm saying is, like, he has to be able to escape the pocket when it collapses, maybe to get some extra yards, slide, get your behind down, and live to fight another day. That is, the statue quarterbacks. I'm not going to say that there's not a play for him in the National Football League. Now, if you got like a Detroit Lions type offensive line, because Jared Goff isn't looking to run, but they just have a really good offensive line, nobody's going to touch him. But if you have offensive line like the Saints, where you have so many limitations, you need a quarterback that's going to be able to move outside that pocket. And lucky for the New Orleans Saints, Tyler Shough has that ability to do so. Not to a point where you have to be a 1,000-yard rusher once again, but the fact that you can get out of harm's way or, extend plays with your feet, have your wide receivers break off routes sometime in order for them to come back to the football in order for you to get a big-time gain. So, TJ, I saw the film breakdown, Rattler my guy, but he played scared after the strip sack. I like how Shough shook off the pick six. Rattler's supposed to have had 2 touchdowns, but wouldn't pull the trigger. Brandon, look, I look at it this way. Both guys win a quarterback competition, and from what I've seen based on the game, one guy allowed the competition to get the best of him, and I'm talking Spencer Rattler. And, it's hard not to think about that, right? I mean, this guy knows what's going on, folks. He knows what's going on, and by that I mean he knows that the New Orleans Saints want or prefer Tyler Shough over him. I'm not saying that they're not willing to give him a chance. I feel like they are willing to give him a chance, but you don't draft a quarterback in the second round, and this is the highest quarterback drafted by your organization since Archie Manning back in 71, to have him sit on a bench. If you put these coaches, the organization, you put them on a polygraph test, if you ask them, who would you want to start, Tyler Shough or Spencer Rattler? If they say Spencer, that thing gonna start like trembling, right? Because that's who they want Tyler Shough to work out. But back to the game, Spencer Rattler, I feel like he had that in the back of his mind. That was the reason why I feel like he didn't play aggressive. He was playing to not make a mistake, right? And that's just not the way to go. Like, you got to let that thing rip. You got to let it go, and you got to let the chips fall where they may. You can't like, oh, man, I don't want to throw that. I mean, that's 50-50 right there. Man, put that ball out there. Have the confidence in your wide receivers to come down with the football. Have the confidence that you have the ability to get it to the wide receiver. Tyler Shough, I think what helped him to, kind of get back into this competition and make it more neck and neck in most people's eyes is because after that interception, he didn't like, oh, man, I'm about to check it down. He still was aggressive, right? And credit to Kellen Moore and his offensive play calling, because he could have easily dialed it back, right? But he decided to go out there and allow, Tyler Shough to let it rip, and he threw that 54-yard touchdown to Mason Tipton. You can't play scared, man. Like, I feel like if you're playing scared, you already lost the competition. He was playing not to lose the competition. It's almost like, man, you're in the lead right now. Okay, man, I'm in the lead right now. I'm a steady pace. Okay, I'm gonna make a steady pace. Instead of you like, man, let me, man, these individuals might catch up to me, man. Let me turn it up just a tad bit, right? You can't coast through it, right? I mean, yeah, you got a A+, right? So let me just go ahead and coast through the rest of this, the rest of this semester. Like, come on, man, you got to turn it on. You got to maintain that momentum that you established. And like I said, I think he was playing not to make a mistake and not to lose the momentum, but in a process, because the aggression of Tyler Shough and his ability to shake that off, I mean, he basically drew neck and neck with Spencer Rattler. Like, you have made this situation tougher on the New Orleans Saints. If the Saints had Spencer Rattler going forward, okay, man, we're gonna roll with Spencer. Now, in this game against the Jacksonville Jaguars, now you got to say to yourself, hey, you know what? I think we might need to consider starting Tyler Shuck. So I think he lost the competition in week number 1 because he was playing not to lose instead of just playing free. And you're going to lose every time, man. You're going to lose every time if you don't go out there and do your best and put your best foot forward. So that was his biggest mistake. But, I mean, he still has the talent. If he comes out in week 2 and makes up for that, then, he can probably pull further away because, I mean, he has the talent, folks. TJ, the Saints worked out Justin Ross, a big receiver, but didn't sign him. I'm beginning to think that Kellen Moore prefers smaller, speedy receivers. What you think? I don't know if he prefers smaller, speedy receivers, or it's just the fact that they just found somebody or they didn't find anybody that doesn't fit their skill set. I mean, their scheme, I should say, their scheme. Look, I don't think any team should be in a business like Young, check, 6'4", check, 210. Okay, man, come on, join us. Like, if he doesn't fit what you're trying to do, he just doesn't fit what you're trying to do. I can respect what the New Orleans Saints are doing, rolling with the wide receivers they have because they feel that they can find success with those guys. Now, how much success? That remains to be seen. Do I think that they have a wide receiver group that is going to tear up the league? Absolutely not. Do I feel like they have wide receivers that are capable of making plays? Yeah. Why not? Chris Olave is capable. Rashid Shaheed is capable. Brandon Cooks is capable. But you don't sign somebody just for the simple fact of just signing them. Like, you're not going to go to a car dealership and say, man, I need a car. And then, not like, okay, man, this car right here shined up. It's blue. It got turtle wax on it. Shine like new money. Okay, let me get that car. You ain't going to start it up or nothing. You know what I'm saying? Like, you ain't going to check the tires. You ain't going to see what's going on under the hood or anything like that, right? You're going to do your due diligence. And if you come away feeling like, man, this car might need some work, let me try something else, right? I mean, Justin Ross may not fit what they're trying to do. Or maybe they just trying to see what they actually have on the team, and maybe they'll circle back around. I mean, I believe they cut Seth Green a couple of weeks ago, and now they re-signed him. So maybe they're trying to circle back around and, try to go at some players that probably was a part of their offseason process. It seems that way. And, if Justin Ross ends up, falling to him one day, maybe they like what they seen in tryouts. Maybe they felt like maybe this other guy was ahead of the curve because he was around the team. So they decided to go with the one wide receiver over the other. But, don't just sign a guy just because, he's a certain size, a certain weight. Like, if he doesn't fit your team, don't do it. Honestly, I've seen enough. Shuck showed he has a high ceiling. Plus, he has the size and arm. His mistakes can be fixed. If this is how he looks in the first NFL action, we should be excited. Well, look, I don't know if I've seen enough, but I can understand why some Saints fans, if they were skeptical about Tyler Shuck, starting to warm up to him. Like, I mean, it's going to take some time. Like, I don't think anybody in their right mind or thinking logically should look at Tyler Shuck and be like, man, Tyler Shuck about to tear the league up in year one. Like, I don't think that. But, I think that maybe he'll start off, a little slow, sluggish, but as the weeks go by, I feel like he can improve from week to week. The more reps you get, the more experience you get in real games, getting live bullets, flown at you, the more experience that you gain. Like, you look at some of these quarterbacks that have found success late in the season, and everybody's talking about how good they are. If you go back and take a look at how some of these rookie quarterbacks played, like Bo Nix and Jaden Daniels at the beginning of the season, they didn't look like they did towards the end, but they started to get reps. They started to gain experience. They started to understand the speed of the game. It started to slow down for them. They started to develop a rapport with their wide receivers, tight ends, and running backs. And that stuff comes with time, right? And if it doesn't happen overnight, it's okay. Because once again, this is a rebuilding process. And anytime you're trying to turn a page from one quarterback to another, it's going to be a process. Anytime you're trying to turn a page from one coach to another, it's going to be a process. You got to have a relationship established between coach and quarterback, and that takes time. So, I don't expect, Herculean efforts coming out the gate, but I expect improvement from week to week, especially looking at that game he played in week one. If both doesn't look the part, I want to see the Saints pull the trigger on Nico out of UCLA. Well, I think that this is the opportunity, and we talked about this to the start of the offseason. We discussed, the Saints need to see what they actually have on this football team. Like, nobody is evaluating Kellen Moore based on this 2025 season. Everybody is basically handling this whole New Orleans Saints situation with fine-tooth gloves. Like, we understand, man. Like, this team is going through a rebuild process. So nobody's really judging Kellen Moore based on the performance of the New Orleans Saints. We know it's an uphill battle. At least we should, right? So if these quarterbacks go out there, man, let's see what they got, right? I mean, throw some things at them. If they able to rise above the occasion, then guess what? You know what you have for the future. If not, then you know what you need to do with your future. Now, if these quarterbacks play formidable and the Saints don't end up with a decent record, and it's not indicative on how they perform. Maybe it was, a certain skill group wasn't what you thought they were going to be. Maybe it was they're not getting enough pressure, or they're giving up big splash plays. Like, if it doesn't just solely fall at the feet of the quarterback, then I just think that, maybe, the New Orleans Saints will probably consider running one of these quarterbacks back, like Shuck or Rattler. So, I hope that's not the case. Like, I hope we're not talking drafting another quarterback in 2026. But if it does happen, then at least that you gave it your all, and you gave these quarterbacks an opportunity to change your mind before you decided that you wanted to go back to the well once again and decide, on another quarterback that could possibly be the future of the franchise. We can't forget these guys are basically rookies. Tom nor Drew showed they would be that great in their first 2 seasons. Be patient. Yeah, you got to be patient with these quarterbacks. I know that you pay attention to outliers who have really good rookie campaigns, and we just want our quarterbacks to look that way, especially when they're young. But everything is not equal. All quarterbacks are not created equal. All circumstances aren't created equal. So in this case, I just think that Saints fans have to practice patience. It's hard to do, but that's just the reality of the football team. You're not going more than likely get, Super Bowl type performances out of these quarterbacks. They're both trying to figure it out, and they're both trying to learn a new system. And you have coaches that are trying to learn and understand these players as well. So it's going to take some time. You've been rolling with these same receivers for too long, and they aren't reliable health-wise. Yeah, they aren't reliable health-wise. They're not, but they are talented. Like, Chris Olave is talented. Rashid Shaheed is talented. And so is Brandon Cooks. But look, I know some people are upset that the New Orleans Saints didn't try to get a wide receiver in the draft, but I can appreciate that you didn't try to, dive into something that you're not fully committed to, right? They went with guys that had experience. They went with players that played in college for a very long time, have been leaders, have made impacts, have made plays time after time, and they pop off film. Like, that's all you can ask for. Like, the opportunity that's presented to them, it's up to them if they are going to take advantage of it or they're just going to squander it. But they decided to go with players that have played a lot of college football, have a lot of experience, and, I don't have an issue with that. But at the end of the day, these wide receivers that they have on the team, that's the best that they have to offer. Like, you look at the free agents out here, man, it's not nobody that's going to come in that's going to change your misfortunes at the wide receiver position. If there was somebody out there, trust and believe they're on somebody else's team right now. I just think that your best bet, if you're talking about an impactful wide receiver, I think that you have to look at the 2026 draft, and look at who's coming out. That's when you can possibly find that young, hungry wide receiver. But to think that somebody's going to come in and be that 1,300-yard number one receiver for you at this stage, I just think it's wishful thinking. You got to roll with what you got. And right now, this is the best the New Orleans Saints have to offer is these 3 wide receivers. So, regardless to who comes in, they're not going to beat out Shaheed, Olave, or Cooks. So, your best bet is just to wait till the next year and see where you are at the wide receiver position. Kellen has at least 4 years to making something shake. We all have to be patient. Well, look, I think that this year is more of a, man, it's more like a red shirt year for the coach, right? Like I said, people handling this whole situation with fine-tooth gloves here. I think next year you'll probably get a little bit more accountability from fans. But this year, I just think if you just, going at this guy talking about, oh man, he ain't the answer. Oh man, he suck. He stink. Like, come on, man. You got to look at this team and what they're trying to do. It's a process. And we all know that Kellen Moore knows something about the process. Hopefully he don't waste 2 years thinking Rattler going to be anything more than what he is. I don't think that's going to happen. I think that they're giving them opportunities, but I think whoever they decide to roll with, that's who they're going to roll with. If it's Shuck, then they're going to ride that till the wheels fall off. If Spencer Rattler, they roll with him, he's probably going to be on a shorter leash. Because once again, I think they want Tyler Shuck to work out because they want to validate that second-round pick. Just the same reason why we're seeing Isaiah Foskey go out there and just, play a game from start to finish because they're trying to validate his draft positioning. But hopefully the second round pick in Tyler Shuck is not the same as the second round pick in Isaiah Foskey because that's just a failed experiment. Hopefully Tyler Shuck is not a failed experiment. And we're talking about this guy for years to come, winning football games for the Saints. Unc got that Chicago White Sox hat with the gray brim. Yeah, man, look, that's one of my favorite hats right here, man. I love the Chicago White Sox, growing up as a kid. Like them, the Atlanta Braves, those are classic like baseball teams. Everybody used to like Frank Thomas back in the day, man. I was a big Frank Thomas fan. So yeah. And then shouts out to Easy E too, man. Easy E put the White Sox hat on the map too. Rest in peace to Easy E. The only way I take another position first round other than left guard has to be wide receiver Jeremiah Smith if he's available. Well, Jeremiah Smith won't be available because he's a true sophomore. So, you got to wait at least one more year for his services. So, but yeah, I definitely feel like I feel like you need to get a left and a right guard. I'm telling you, like I think the Saints aren't going to reach their full potential on the interior until they fix the left and the right guard. I want to see Cesar Ruiz work out, but I mean, you've been in the league since 2020, and I mean, you're just way too inconsistent, man. Way too inconsistent. Like I want him to work out, but I think he is what he is, man. I think that he's a solid right guard. Like he goes to a team, he's gonna be solid. Like I think what the Saints need based on right now, young quarterback trying to establish a running game, you need a brute force on the interior, left guard and right guard. Like you need some guys that's gonna get these defensive linemen out of the way, that's gonna create holes for these running backs to run through, give quarterbacks time to throw the ball down the field and make big plays. Like rolling with Trevor Penning and Cesar Ruiz is not going to move the needle. You'll probably have some consistent games, and by consistent, I mean there are going to be some games where they're not the biggest issue on the team, but I just think that, Cesar Ruiz is what he is, right? He is what he is. Like, you're not going to get elite. You're not going to get all pro. You're not going to get any of that from him. Like, he going to give you stability. Like, you're going to know, okay, man, that's who our right guard is. But he's not going to give you like that all pro. And I just think that the Saints need a Jari Evans type. I think that they need, a top left guard, right guard. Like they need that, right? And they're not going to find success until they fix this offensive line. TJ, Saints fans really, really need to chill out. Well, everybody, is on edge right now. I mentioned it, Jerry, at the top of the show. It has a lot to do with the fact that the Saints haven't found success. And some Saints fans are in uncharted territory. You got a lot of Saints fans that only remember the Saints being, prosperous, like being a successful team, winning football games, putting up a whole bunch of points, generating excitement. Didn't go to the Super Bowl every single year, but you were going to get double-digit wins and a little bit of bragging rights coming out of the South. But now it's like, it's doom and gloom because, some Saints fans have never faced this level of adversity since they've been a Saints fan. So you have to understand that, that's the power, of technology. Most people that are on, social media and stuff like that kind of fall into a certain age group. I'm not saying old people that don't remember when the Saints weren't good back in the 90s aren't on there, but when it comes to it, like a lot of Saints fans are young, mid 20s, early 30s. They only remember Drew Brees being a dominant quarterback and being one of the best quarterbacks in the league, and the Saints being one of the best teams in the NFL. So it's uncharted territory for him. It's almost like a rich kid who parents come to him and say, "I'm sorry, son, but we're gonna have to move out this mansion, and now we living in a 2-bedroom house or whatever." It's a culture shock, and some people are just trying to go through the motions, right? You had a butler, serving you meals. Now all of a sudden you got to go to the refrigerator yourself. It's uncharted territory for some of these Saints fans. Let's get something straight. Atlanta 0 reigns, Carolina 0 reigns, Cincinnati 0 reigns, Jags 0 reigns, Chargers 0 reigns. That is why they hate the Saints. Well, look, I don't know if I ain't never heard no Bengals or no Jags fans dislike the Saints, but I mean I can understand the Falcons or Carolina, but yeah, I mean they haven't won anything, But at the end of the day, the Saints haven't won anything in a while too, man. So I don't want to be like one of them Dallas Cowboy fans that always talking about 1995 like it was last week. The Saints won a Super Bowl back in 2009, and it was a great moment. But I would like for the Saints to get back to that point where we can talk about the Saints being a relevant football team. I don't want to be one of those people that root for a team and just so, I feel better about myself, I'm up there talking about when Drew Brees playing. I honestly feel the fact that we're still talking about Drew Brees is not a good thing, right? We should always, now let me make this clear. We should always remember what Drew Brees did for this organization, the city, everything that he did. There was a question that was asked on the Dan Patrick show to Drew Brees, does he want a statue? And, Drew Brees gave that, that answer that he always gives. I mean, Drew Brees a class act, but we all know that, he deserves a statue, and, he's the greatest New Orleans Saint of all time. But the fact that we're still talking about him and he's about to go into the Hall of Fame, because he's going to have retired 5 years. That's not a good thing, man. It's just not. You want a situation like how the Indianapolis Colts had, like when Peyton Manning, he was towards the twilight of his career. He had the neck issue. He ends up leaving, going to Denver, and Indianapolis ended up drafting Andrew Luck. Andrew Luck was so good that I'm not saying they forgot about Peyton Manning, but it made the transition much easier. The fact that we're still talking about Drew Brees like he retired yesterday is not a good thing, right? We should always remember what Drew Brees did, but we shouldn't be talking about Drew Brees because the Saints haven't done good enough at the quarterback position to replace him. So I don't know, man. I want to see some prosperity. I want to see some success from the Saints, and I want to be able to talk about them, when it comes to, right now, not like digging in the crates to try to validate why the Saints are a better team than Atlanta. Like, I mean, based on what I see, the Saints are a better team than Atlanta. But at the end of the day, it's like I don't want to have to bring up what they used to be in order for me to feel validated about that, if that makes sense. Bub Means is a waste of a pick. Him and Spencer had good chemistry last season. I don't want to say he was a waste of a pick, man. I mean, we talk about a 4th-round wide receiver. Like, this not like we talk about a 1st-round guy like Trevor Penning. Like, Trevor Penning struggling is way more alarming than Bub Means struggling. Like, if Bub Means work out, then it's a great thing, right? Another 4th-round pick, if I'm not mistaken, Antonio Brown. Like, Antonio Brown was a 4th-round pick. So the fact that Antonio Brown exceeded expectations, that's a plus. Like, but Bub Means, if you're a 4th-round pick, you have an uphill battle anyway of making a team, right? I didn't expect 1,000 yards. I expect 700 yards for Bub Means. Bub Means is a cog on a wheel. Like, I mean, that's just what it is. He's a cog on a wheel. Like, he's not the number one guy. If you're looking for Bub Means to be your number one guy, like, your wide receiver room is in shambles. And I'm not saying anything about his talent. I think he's talented, but he's not a number one receiver. He's not. So if you're looking for Bub Means to give you that type of impact, then your wide receiver room isn't, where it needs to be. So I'm not counting and relying on a 4th round draft pick to change my misfortunes. Like if he works out and he contributes in any way, trust and believe that's a steal. If Christian Boyd continues to build on the momentum, like he was a 6th round pick last season. If he's a part of your rotation, like that's a plus. Like your 1st, 2nd, and your 3rd rounds are the guys that you want to look at and be like, okay, man, these guys could possibly be like my core players. But when you talk about 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th round picks, man, like if they end up making a team, then guess what? Like somebody needs to be high-fiving and big up in the GMs, and they probably going to be looking at your assistant GM to try to see if they can bring them to their team so they can help them draft really well. So it's easy to dog the roster. I want a real recall after Cam and DeMario retire. We got to reset this roster. Yeah, I think that's what they're doing right now. And that's what you want to see, Debo. You want to see some of these young guys step up like they did in the first game. Isaiah Stallberg, guys like Fadil Diggs, Danny Stutzman. Like these are the guys that you want to see step up because the Saints drafting them. And you got to be able to hit in the draft in order for you to be able to get yourself out of this hole. I keep saying that because it's true. You got to be able to dig yourself out of this hole by drafting quality players. Now, the Saints feel like guys with experience and played a lot of snaps in college is the way to go. We'll see if that theory works out. But you want to see some of these young players making plays. And if they can get some of these young players to make an impact, then they can get themselves out of this hole. And maybe the rebuild won't take as long as some may anticipate. I was never on the Bub Means hype train. Yeah, neither was I. I always thought he could be a contributor, but not like, and people act like he was about to be Valdez Scantling around this thing or something. Like, all right, I hear you. Says we can go as far as our quarterbacks can take us. Our quarterback room sucks. I don't agree with that, man. I don't agree with that because right now, like you're putting this pressure on some young, inexperienced quarterbacks. Like the Saints can go and win and find success. Number one, if the offensive line ends up being pretty decent, and also if they can be accompanied by a potent running game, like a potent running attack. Like if look, you don't want to put this much pressure on these quarterbacks, right? Best case scenario, you want a situation like Brock Purdy, right? Brock Purdy wasn't the best quarterback in the world, and he's still not. Mr. Irrelevant, picked very last in the draft when he came out, but he was accompanied by some very talented players, right? Get the ball to Christian McCaffrey, short yardage, you're going to make somebody miss big game. Get the ball to George Kittle, get the ball to Deebo Samuels. Like, you need players that can make plays. You got to be able to scheme these guys open. And then you can alleviate some of the pressure off of these quarterbacks, right? Like all these quarterbacks can make some throws. You give them some time, you give them opportunity to be able to stand strong in the pocket and deliver the ball to some of the key receivers, and they'll be okay. They don't have to be Joe Burrow. They don't have to be Josh Allen. They don't have to be Patrick Mahomes. Those guys got to show up every single week and put forth a Herculean effort for their team to find success. But that's just what comes with being elite. These guys don't need to be elite, but they need some players around them that's going to be able to make some plays. And that's up to Kellen Moore. Kellen Moore has to figure out how he's going to use some of these key players to alleviate some of the pressure off of these quarterbacks. But yeah, I mean, I agree. You only can now, if we're talking about like the ultimate goal, Jamarcus, and I agree with you. The ultimate goal is to win a Super Bowl. Yeah, you definitely need a top-notch quarterback. Like you definitely need a quarterback that is going to make more good decisions than bad decisions. But in this case, you don't need that. Like, but you need some pieces around them. You need the defense to be able to get pressure on the quarterback. You need your secondary to generate some turnovers. And also, like I said, you need your offensive line to work out, and you need to be able to establish the run with the running backs that you have. And I think that if you put all that together, then I think these quarterbacks can make the right decisions. But only time will tell. I think the only reason we didn't was because Rashid and Olave was coming back, and they had the same game-breaking speed he does, but younger. I don't know what we were referring to on this one, man. I apologize. I guess I kind of came in on that conversation. Let's see, State of the Saints, TJ. What we aren't really talking about is the safety blanket of a decent running game. Yep. To mask the lack of quarterback play, an inside offensive line is weak, so the run game gets killed. I mean, Debo, we're on the same page. Like I said, I just kind of expounded on that with the last question. Yeah, man. Like you want to put all the pressure on these quarterbacks, man, but man, these quarterbacks aren't going to be the reason why the Saints find success. I mean, maybe like down the line, if they like come into their own, they can be, but you shouldn't just be looking for your rookie quarterback to be the is-all and the be-all. Like you want them to be able to figure things out and not just have the pressures of being like like everything on me. No, you don't want that. Like you want them to look at Alvin Kamara and be like, okay, man, Alvin got me. Want to look at a Chris Olave, okay, man, they got me. You know, you don't want to just look at like, oh man, I got to go for 350 and 4 touchdowns for us to win this. That's wishful thinking. That's a tall ask for a young, inexperienced quarterback. I'll take Kirk Cousins over these little dudes. Look, man, Rome wasn't built in a day. We just got to be patient with the process. It'll work itself out, man. It's rather these two guys are going to end up being starters. One of these guys going to end up being a starting quarterback, future franchise quarterback of the Saints, or they're going to end up finding the one down the line. Hopefully, we don't keep on digging into the crates, trying to find the next Drew Brees. Hopefully, it won't be a Jim Kelly situation or a Dan Marino situation. Hopefully, the Saints can nip this in the bud with one of these quarterbacks. I ain't gonna lie, that new center Simpkins looks amazing. Yeah, man. We were talking about Torricelli Simpkins. Like, he looked really good, and then, and I think the young man is confident. So let's see how he can build on the momentum in the from this game that we just saw to the next one against the Jags. I hope he turns out well. We should have drafted a big body wide receiver. Yeah, Debo, we should have, but if you're not comfortable or you're not too sure about a guy, then just don't draft them just because they're tall and big. Just don't draft them for that, man. Like I think that everybody was upset because the Saints been whiffing on draft picks. So the Saints did, the more careful, cautious thing. Like I said, get guys with experience that played a lot of college football games. So we'll see if that works out. But if they weren't in love with a pick at the wide receiver position, I agree. Don't draft him. When Rattler was in the game, he had the bag wide receivers in the game playing for him against the Chargers' first string defense. He wasn't playing against the first string defense. There was second and third string. They might have had a start out there too, but for the most part, it was second and third string. And even if that, your offensive line, that's supposed to be the guys that you're supposed to be rolling into week one with, for the exception of Eric McCoy not being out there. So, I mean, look, I can't really excuse Spencer Rattler. I love Spencer Rattler. Trust and believe, man. I think very highly of the guy. But, you can still like somebody, man, and also just call a spade a spade. And, the issues with ball security is not a good thing. He made some really good decisions, but he was also playing not to lose a competition. And I think that, if he was a little bit more aggressive, then I think that maybe, some Saints fans have probably come away from that game feeling like the competition, is exciting. Even though it is to a certain extent, I just think that Spencer Rattler didn't do himself any favors playing timid in a football game. I'm not going to completely absolve him of that. Like, some of the decisions that were made were not good ones, and him not pulling the trigger didn't help his cause either. So I like him, but we also got to be fair, and we also got to put this thing into context. And we can't just we got to look at it from all sides. Like, he could have been a little bit more aggressive than he was, and he wasn't. Games are won in the trenches with the offensive line and D-line, run the ball and stop the run. Yep. And that's what they got to fix. But I'm concerned that until Trevor Penning and Cesar Ruiz off this football team, the Saints aren't going to be the offensive line that Saints fans want. I kind of want them to make the quarterback decision after the second preseason game. So the third preseason game, whoever is the starter can get as many reps as possible. Well, I think they're going to end up deciding, Brandon. Most teams decide on who's going to be their starting quarterback after the second preseason. Now, I'm not saying that the Saints are going to fall into tradition. We all know that the Saints, they kind of shy away from that type of stuff. They are who they are. But I think that, they have enough film. They have enough practice tape for them to be able to make this decision. Like, we got to keep in mind, they're around these guys all the time, around the clock. So they see how these guys operate. They see how these guys study. They see how they research. They know the questions that they ask, and they see how they command the huddle during practices and games. So when you combine all that, I think they'll come up with the best decision they feel will give the Saints the most success this season. TJ, I saw a graphic that showed records in the past 5 years. We're stressing hard, but we only been messed up for real since 2023. Technically, if you think about it, we was 9-8 in 2022 and in 2021. Well, look, not as messed up as some of these other teams lead, but when you're missing the playoffs, when you're not winning and you're inconsistent and you're not beating the teams that you need to beat, you're beating like low-hanging fruit teams and you're not beating competitive teams, like how impressive can, a 9-8 record look? I think that's what Saints fans are looking at. Yeah, we're 9-8, but we're not a 9-8 team, right? You say you are what your records say you are, but I think that in some cases that's not the case. You got to look at the context, right? Right? Or are you 9-8 because 4 starting quarterbacks didn't play, right? Or a defensive lineman who most teams will scheme for that's coming to town didn't play, or a wide receiver that's making an impact for this offense isn't playing. Like, you got to look at the context and when you play the team. All that stuff matters. But I think when Saints fans think about this team, they're thinking about the lack of prosperity from a division standpoint, postseason standpoint. And those are two things that fan bases want. Like, they want to see their team win a division. They want to see the team make the playoffs, because if you're in the playoffs, you got a strong chance of making a run. So that's what, they're looking at. I'm going to take a few more and then we're going to go ahead and get up out of here. It says, get Hunter Deckers some reps. Yeah, I think that when it comes down to it, I just think that it's probably a 2-person race, but you also got to put Jake Haener in that thing. You got to put Jake in a conversation. I think Hunter Deckers is probably going to end up playing maybe preseason game 4 or something like that. They'll probably give him some snaps so he can put something on film. But I just think that they realize that these reps right here are too valuable to these young quarterbacks, and they want them to be able to get the most of them. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Spencer Rattler had 28 snaps. Tyler Shuck had 29 snaps. So, I mean, the more snaps these guys can get, the better, they can be able to assess this quarterback situation and find success. Of course, TJ, my point is Bills 0 rings. Yeah, I mean, the Bills have 0 rings, but, they always have been a competitive football team. I mean, mine is like the early 2000s, but, they were one of the top teams, like when Jim Kelly was there and the K-Gun was running wild with Thurman Thomas and, Andre Reed and, all those cats, man, Bruce Smith on the team. They were a force, right? But, they went to 4 Super Bowls. They just didn't win any. But, they were always a part of that top team conversation. I've seen enough of Rattler and Shuck. You either got it or you don't. We missed out on Dart and Sanders. I blame Mickey Loomis and also blame Mrs. Benson. This time for a change. Jamarcus, look, I understand your frustration, but how my question is, like, how have you seen enough of Tyler Shuck and man only played in 1 football game? We gotta, like, look, I get it, right? We have our preference, we have our type. We always feel like, this team, we should have went in this direction or that direction. But man, we haven't seen enough out of Tyler Shuck to say that he's not it. Right? You haven't seen enough. Like, we can't get sucking into tweets and articles. Like, those articles have, they're based on what those guys see, but it's not indicative on what a player career is going to be like, right? It's not. Like, if a player throws an interception, well, everybody throws an interception. I mean, some of the best quarterbacks in the league throw interceptions. That doesn't mean like, okay, man, there's no saving grace about him. I mean, I think Josh Allen threw like 3 interceptions in practice not too long ago, and this man a league MVP. You know, like everybody's not, oh man, he gonna suck. Like, no, like we can't be too rushed. We can't rush to judge every situation. And I get it. When you're frustrated, sometimes like you just want that frustration to be alleviated, right? You want it to go away, right? And you try to find the best solutions, but who knows, man? One of these guys might end up being a solution. Like we don't know. We see players reach their full potential with better coaching staff and better situations all the time. We just can't be so quick to get rid of a player, or if a player struggles or he's trying to figure it out. We can't just say, oh, that's just who the player is. Like, we don't know, right? And we definitely got to be careful that our opinions and our views are not skewed because we wanted something to happen so badly and it didn't happen and we're still frustrated about it. Like, I get the whole Shadir Sanders situation. I think that it would have been great for the city. I think that he would have galvanized the fan base. I think the energy he would have came with would have been off the charts. I mean, they played the Carolina Panthers and everybody was talking about what he did in the game, right? He's a polarizing guy. So from that particular perspective, I do feel like it could have helped the New Orleans Saints. When it comes from a marketing standpoint, you definitely probably would have got some primetime games or more games being seen in front of a nationally televised audience, but that's just not the way that it goes. That's just not what they wanted. So they selected Tyler Shuck, and let's just see what it looks like, man. Let's not just be so quick to judge. Let's not be so quick to just be like, oh, man, he's no saving grace. Let's not just size a guy up because he had on some Nikes instead of Jordans. He had a sleeve on. And he was supposed to have on a watch. Like let's not get into all that, man. Let's just follow the process, respect the process, and judge accordingly. And if you come to that conclusion and it says, you know what, man, these guys on it, then let's have the conversation. But, I'm not trying to just, hop on the train. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm just not. I'm not just going to hop on the train of negativity, man. Let's just see if this thing can work out, because you never know. Like, we can be having a conversation a couple months from now and it's completely different energy. So let's not just, just give up so quickly. Shuck had 6 years in college to prove he got it, and he don't. How do you know? How do you know? I mean, how do you know? Like, how do you know a guy got it? Okay, if that's the case, Bo Nix was in college for 5 or 6 years. Did he not help the Denver Broncos go to the playoffs? I mean, you can't say that. I mean, you can't say that. I mean, Joe Burrow started out at Ohio State, transferred to LSU. Like, man, sometimes guys got to find themselves. Like, you can't just say, oh, man, like, that's what I'm talking about. We can't, like, just look at, like, oh, man, look how long he was there. Like, everybody's situation is different. Like, I mean, I'm not going to tell you what to do, bro, but if you want to be pessimistic and just think the sky falling, man, I'm just saying, like, man, why would you want to just put yourself through that type of misery? All I'm saying is, man, you can't just size a guy up and just say, oh, he's been in college 6 years and it just ain't going to work out. Like, that's not always the case. If you feel like that, then, man, I can't change your mind. But all I got to say is, if it does work out, yeah, I'll just leave it at that. True, TJ. And like you said a few times, interceptions aren't necessarily the quarterback fault. Running backs run wrong routes at times, not at the spot where they should be. Also, the O-line got to get a quarterback's time. Just think that people have to be patient, man. I just think they have to be patient. Rome wasn't built in a day. Says Bo Nix was good in college, TJ. If he was so good, then why did he leave Auburn, man? Like, why did he leave Auburn? Like, if he was as great as, like he was good at Oregon, but he wasn't as good at Auburn as he was at Oregon. Like, there's a reason why he left and transferred, man. So, like I said, man, like, you got to be patient, man. Like, Rome wasn't built in a day, man. Rattler came in a preseason game looking just like last year. So you have to give him a chance. Yeah, man, you gotta give him an opportunity, man. I know we want instant gratification. Just give him a chance, man. You crying over the past, like let it go, bro. Go grab a tissue or something. What's your favorite snowball, TJ? Wedding cake. Wedding cake snowball. That's my favorite one. TJ, they don't know the word patience. Well, look, like I said, I understand the impatience of the fan base. They just want a winner. But I'm not. I just feel like we don't know what these guys are going to be. Now, this might be one of those situations. Jamarcus might be right, but I just have a wait and see approach when it comes down to it. Like, I don't want to just sit up here and say, "Oh man, they're gonna suck." I don't know. Like, I don't know, man. I trust Kellen Moore. I'm going to trust him. I feel like he's making the right decisions. I've seen him work with quarterbacks in the past. I don't think that he would just select a quarterback like Tyler Shuck if he didn't feel like he had any redeeming qualities. I just want to give it a chance, and I think we all should. But I want to say thank you all for checking out the State of the Saints podcast. Really do appreciate it. Much love to each and every one of you. No matter what side of the fence that you're on, man. Look, we all Saints fans at the end of the day. We all want the success of this team, and you know, I'm not telling anybody what to do, but if you want to, just be, down about the season or feel like you're just going to be in a tailspin, you might just want to tune out, man. But this is going to be a process. It's going to be a process, man. But we all love this football team. We all want them to do well. And I really do appreciate your time. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you have not already. Please hit the like button, help the channel to grow. Check out the State of the NFL podcast that's available right now. Got an episode up about the Saints quarterback competition. I'm going to go ahead once again, put that link inside of the comments so you can go ahead and check that out. Make sure you subscribe to the State of the NFL podcast. Also, NFC South Roundtable every single Tuesday at 8 p.m. Had a really good time over there on Tuesday. And also, if you want to follow me on social media, interact with me, you can hit me up on X at TJAYJones8, and also the State of the NFL at State of the NFL. Till next time, all I got to say is, who dat?
Thank you for listening to my daddy's podcast. Please subscribe to our channel.
All I got to say is, who dat? My bad, man. One more second. One more time. Okay. I just saw that, Keno. Keno to say I missed a dono. Okay. I appreciate it, man. Thank you for the $2. Says TJ, maybe Nola wants to let Juwan be the big wide receiver. That's a good point, man. That's a good point. And I thought about that too. Maybe they feel like utilizing Juwan Johnson, his size, and him being at that tight end position, and he is a former wide receiver. So maybe they looking at him to make an impact this season. So, I mean, that's a good point. But whoever they use, man, hopefully these guys can make some plays and make this offense successful. I appreciate that, Keno. Thank you for the $2. And once again, thank you all for tuning in. And once again, like always, all I got to say is, who dat?
Thank you for listening to my daddy's podcast. Please subscribe to our channel.
All I got to say is, who dat?